From the backstretch at Saratoga, this is Loose on the Lead with Steve Bick and Seth Merrow. Loose on the Lead is sponsored by
Good morning. Welcome to Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrow and Steve Bick. Our partner Steve Bick back in up in Canada last weekend on the aborted King's Plate, and I continue to do that. King's Plate, which was run Friday. They had a nice card up there Friday in the the postponement with the weather. What you were there? What was the weather? Oh, first of all, good morning.
Good morning, Sparkly. It was nuts. It was crazy.
Was it?
It was crazy.
The
storm rolled in. You could see it coming. It was like those clouds when the aliens arrived at Independence Day. That's what it was like. It was like this churning black thing that came rolling in. And at first it deposits, like 4 inches of rain in an hour, but then it relentlessly continued on for like the next 3. And I could tell by about 2:30, the tunnels were flooded. So there was not going to be any way to get the horses over. As I packed up and I was at the border when they canceled to get back because I could see what was happening.
Yeah.
So it was too bad. And as it turned out, and I know they came under tremendous criticism for running the card Friday for a variety of reasons, and then they ended up doing a nice business. They had 11 million. And of course, yesterday here, a record smashing handle day, $63 million bet. But they did very well running the card Friday.
Good.
And as it happens, there's all kinds of connections to Caitlin, her greatness, and her win in the King's Plate. I tried to get Joe Applebaum, who I think most of you at least have heard of, had a great experience with Joe on Friday. Joe pinhooked the filly and sold her. And we're going to have Elliot Walden later. And of course, Elliot and WinStar in partnership with Sienna Farm, they won the Forego yesterday, but they also won the King's Plate on Friday. Caitlin, her greatness, I see Joe Applebaum in the racing office Friday. And I said, Joe, I said, good luck. I said, I'm all over the filly today. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, Caitlin, her greatness. He says, what about her? I said, she's running in the King's Plate, Joe. He says, oh my God. He said that they had to supplement. I said, they supplemented 2 weeks ago, Joe. The thing was canceled. Joe's busy with a project you're going to hear about soon, actually, a artificial intelligence wagering tool. We'll talk to him about it when
we've had him in before talking about technology.
Well,
and
this is
bringing it. Yeah, okay.
This is happening
nice.
By Naira Betts. But anyway, so Joe, he said, thanks a lot. He said, I'll watch it. And for those of you that know Joe Applebaum, he's been known to bet. I pushed her on everybody these last 2 weeks. Paid $20.90, and she was terrific, grinding out the win over Mark Cassie and Gary Barber, who looked like winners at the 16th pole. Anyway,
Mark had a good day in the undercard stakes. He had a couple of wins on the undercard.
Yeah, he did.
Stakes.
He did, and of course, won yesterday for Mrs. Weber.
Yeah.
Has got one today that
like that
well
horse.
for the maiden starter today in the the 5th maybe or the 6th.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but King's Plate, I still have not seen a King's Plate. I've been up there now, and you and I have been up for the mile, but at some point I'll be able to see a plate.
Yeah, we used to go up when it was before the Saratoga season, so I've been up for a few of the Queen's Plates.
Oh, you've seen some plates?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
We went up
Nice.
2 or 3 times before they changed the date.
For the network?
Yeah.
With the network? I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, we went up early, and then we also have made a couple of 2 trips up there. And this year's only 1 trip, but the later one will be up for the Woodbine Mile. But they're always nice up at Woodbine. I like a nice shot up the throughway. You take a right at Buffalo, and boom.
Wait till you see what's going on. You haven't seen it.
I'm hoping they put us in the hotel.
Oh, I'm sure they will. The hotel that they built a hotel, a casino, a 5,000 seat amphitheater. They got all kinds of big name acts that are cycling through. That they've got a list of shows that are coming, comedians and music and you name it. It's quite something. And for those of you that have never been, I lived 10 years in Montreal, so I'm a Montreal guy, not a Toronto guy. But it's really quite something. Woodbine is like an oasis, a giant plot of land, literally in at this point in the center of the city. I mean, when they built Woodbine, it was the northwestern suburbs. But then Lester Pearson Airport, which is right across the Queensway, you got these two giant tracts of land. And Woodbine, it's really quite amazing, actually. There's this huge beltway around the property. The barns are obviously on one side, but now they've utilized the opportunity to build this casino, and the Ontario Lottery people run it, and a fabulous hotel. You won't recognize it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy
it. Like I say, I've seen some shots of people who are in the hotel, and you got the looking right over the trap. I'm hoping to get one of those rooms up there. So a little bit of weather issues for Woodbine for Kings Plate, but it all worked out yesterday. Gorgeous day here yesterday. Big crowd, as you say, nice handle, and a great day of racing as well. But given what the weather's been iffy up here, it just worked out perfectly yesterday, and highlighted by really great racing and a great Travers.
Do we want to? I mentioned we've got Elliot Walden, and we're holding a second slot just in case. I'll keep checking to see if the potential surprise guest for 10:45 or so. But Elliot will join us, so we'll save that plate and we'll save the Forgo. But we should talk immediately about Travers and what is going to be one of the Travers that people will remember and talk about. Everything we expected and anticipated from this race really came off. And obviously, while we'll talk about fierceness and what his win does for him and for the division, the story is Torpedo Anna. And Kenny McPeak, who is a good sport and who we poke fun at a lot because he invites it a lot of times. He's boisterous and it's kind of outgoing and daring, and he tries things that a lot of outfits would not try. And this was a decision I ended up picking her, which I never expected.
I'm in the same boat.
I never expected, when the decision was being made, I was, repeatedly said, I think this is a little bit of a mistake, but it was certainly going to be good for racing. We weren't doubting that. It made the Alabama better, and then it made this race unforgettable. Let's take a look. There were a few things that were happening here.
And maybe I called for the stretch. Maybe if the guys can pull up,
there's no point in the stretch
coming out of the gate, because we can see the pace
race.
scenario. Yes, I'm with you. I was in the same boat as far as being not really for her early, but the more I looked at the race, plenty of early speed, and I said, I think when I was in here yesterday, I think she can sit the same trip she sat in the Coaching Club American Oaks. Kind of sit off on the backstretch and then be in a good position as we come to the top of the stretch. And that's kind of how it played out.
Well, what was important here was we knew that Dornick and Fierceness, Batten Down, and the filly all were going to need to have an interest in early positioning. What's notable here is that Batten Down is asked the same way Junior Alvarado asked Arthur's Ride. They get the lead. Meanwhile, Brian Hernandez, he didn't have to ask the filly. Her natural speed gains that position early. So she's exactly where they'd hoped to be. And even there, when he could have actually gone up inside of Batten Down, he lays off. There were people that were worried that she was going to be headstrong and was going to be too eager. She wasn't. She was perfect. I'll tell you who's too eager is Unmatched Wisdom, who they said would sit comfortably, did not sit comfortably. Absolutely wants to go. Now he settles down at least a little bit. But in the meantime, Dornick is comfortable. As far as he knows, there's nobody really that far in front of him. And of course, the key to everything here is going to be fierceness and how he continues to improve and mature. And whatever threw him off in those misfires, I think is clearly behind him. And also, we can say the nonsense, the stupidity that, in fact, Andy Serling called this out. This isn't a horse that needs time between races. That was such stupidity. Here he is, weeks removed from the Jim Dandy, and look at this. And see here, Brian Hernandez Jr. has a difficult situation. He would prefer to stay on the rail and save that ground, but he knows right at that point, Batten Down and Dornick, if either one of them stop in his face, he's screwed. So he kicks outside, which is fine, and he's following Fierceness. Fierceness grabs control. What a tremendous job by Johnny. I mean, who just does this year in, year out, career, forever. But right here, you think, oh, Fierceness is home. He's not home. Brian Hernandez said at the 16th pole, he thought he absolutely had Fierceness nailed, and he does everything but get ahead of her at the wire, ahead of him. This was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, it was, as you say, it's one of those Travers that's going to go down. A lot of people, I was surprised as I talked to people, a lot of people were on Torpedo Anna yesterday. You and I also.
She goes off second choice.
Yeah, when she made her move, I thought she was going to get there. So it was disappointing from that aspect, but it was a great addition to the Travers. And again, it was back-to-back days where horses ran too good to lose, with Idiomatic on Friday running really well, and then Torpedo Anna on Saturday. And yeah, in the post-race press conference out in the Jocks Room backyard, both Todd Pletcher and Mike Rapoli said immediately after the Jim Dandy, they were thinking, you know what, we'll wait for the Pennsylvania Derby. We'll give the horse a little more time. But they both said, by the next day, the horse was kind of bouncing around the barn, and they said, "Yeah, we're gonna pop to the Travers."
That was a trying to look for an excuse to not run, and then of course, the conclusion was that Mindframe can't make it, so we'll go ahead and run. There's a lot to parse out here and to absorb, because now. Dornick, who leader in the clubhouse going into the day, Dornick now has got company, and even though the Belmont and Haskell may and the Fountain of Youth, does that outweigh Travers, Jim Dandy, Florida Derby? It's very tough right now to separate the two.
And in the most recent yesterday head-to-head, Fierceness has the victory. So I think that's going to play into people's thoughts as well.
That's what it's funny. It's funny you say that, because when I sit down and vote on Eclipse choices, I mean, obviously that head-to-head is something I get to.
Yeah.
But I've got the general approach that the overall quality of each individual field, the historic import of the various event. So you bring up a very fair point on head-to-head matchups. Now the question is going to be, how does Gargan and Wes Paces and Randy Hill and everybody and Jason Worth, how do they go forward from here? Do you? If you look now, I mean, he has now run Fountain of Youth, Bluegrass, Derby, Belmont, Haskell, Travers. Do you press on to the Pennsylvania Derby? Do you freshen up a little bit and look to the Classic?
Yeah, that's
they're in a little bit of a pickle. Same thing, same thing really for Fierceness to some degree, right? I mean,
yeah, you would think
Pennsylvania Derby for them.
That's going to be intriguing to see who does go on to the Pennsylvania Derby.
I mean, you cannot underestimate how important this win is for Fierceness from every standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, the mile and a quarter, particularly. It's also a huge win for City of Light as a stallion, obviously. Very notable day, I thought, that, and I'm sure when I talked to Todd Pletcher and or Mike Rapoli, And certainly with Sid Fernando on Wednesday on when we do our pedigree work. I think it's really notable that Seth Klarman with Domestic Product winning the Jerkins and Rapoli winning the Travers. These are both owners who are as immersed in the game and spend as much money as anybody in the game. And it's kind of gratifying and a good template for people to see what, where they are in their development. Now, of course, they're two very different people, as it happens in virtually every way. But the fact that they win the two biggest 3-year-old races of the year back to back with homebreds that they've cultivated is pretty cool. I thought that was one of the underlying stories of the day.
I just double checked 111 buyers.
111 buyers, right? And
Torpedo Anna also being right there.
Of course, Domestic Product the 106. Society we'll probably, after Elliot, we'll probably come back and go through some of the other races. I thought Society's performance was spectacular, winning the Ballerina. Christophe Clement we talked to about. Chris couldn't come. He's got a huge day today. I don't know how many he's starting, how many he sends out, but there's also Turf Works that just started at 10 o'clock, and he's probably got 30 of them. So a lot of trainers. Scott Blasi was going to join us, but he's got Turf Works as well. So
that's the thing on Fridays and Sundays. Turf Works don't kick off until 10 o'clock.
For those, let's see, non-stakes, we'll save the rest of the stakes. The Big Maiden Race. Talk about the Big Maiden Race for a second. Tip Top Thomas and Rookie Card. And, Danny Gargan is 0 for the meet now, going into the last week. But he's had horses run well, and Rookie Card absolutely ran a winning race. He looked beaten about 3 times before Todd's Tip Top Thomas. And Todd had 2 horses. Watch for the other one, Freaky, who had a bad start. That horse has got a gait issue because if you read the Clocker report, you understood that that horse is going to have to work out the gait issue. But that horse is probably okay and is better certainly than the way he looked yesterday. But the volatile Tip Top Thomas that Jim Backey owns, a winner by a head, 85 buyer for both Tip Top Thomas and Rookie Card. This is always the most important, late season 3-year-old race or 2-year-old race of the year.
Yeah, I made my dark horse Sovereignty. I'll tell people to keep your eyes on that one. Way in the back of the pack early and came late to run a nice 4th in there. So maybe, given the finishing position, I don't think we'll get value next time, but I think we'll benefit from that start.
Well, and Chad had that Key Waden. This is I think the second. This is the second Larry Best, the OXO, the OXO Equine. This I think is the second good-looking Key Waden. This is the second nice-looking 2-year-old for Larry Best in the last 2 weekends. Key Waden was running late or basically behind the pace setters and was finishing well and ended up only a head and a nose behind the top pair. So you won't be getting 7-1 next time on Key Waden. And I haven't heard. Have you heard about Discotheque who pulled up?
No.
Pulled up near the top of the stretch. That was the 7, the maker.
Was that the horse that had trouble with the bit, maybe? There was a horse that did get pulled up, had trouble with the equipment.
Oh, yeah?
Walked onto the van. That may have been.
Okay, good. Yeah. Good. All right. You know what we could do? Let's take the break here, I think, because Elliot Walden is standing by, and there's a lot to talk to Elliot about, and that includes the Kings Plate win on Friday, the 4-go win, first grade 1 for Rudy Brissett, who does such a great job. And Rudy certainly and the team was certainly looking for a pair of grade 1 sprint wins because World Record, of course, was going to follow up in potentially in the Allen Jerkins. But in addition, we'll talk about the new sires coming to WinStar. We'll talk about the great success his son Will is having as well. I had Will on the show last week. He was fabulous. and he's killing it, both in Kentucky and here. Loose on the Lead continues. Stay with us. Capital OTB, back after this.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Turn your love of racing into savings with equine discounts through the NTRA. Purchase through equine discounts and receive great savings on well-known brands like John Deere, Sherwin-Williams, Big Ass Fans, Farmers Insurance, and Office Depot. Join thousands of other equine members and support companies that give back to the sport we all love. Call 866-678-4289 or
We're back at Loose on the Lead on this absolutely gorgeous Sunday morning. Had a little bit of sprinkle earlier, but it's going to be a fabulous New York showcase day. Joined now by Elliot Walden, WinStar Farm. Congratulations on a pretty darn good weekend. You win the King's Plate on Friday. You win the Forgo yesterday. Not so bad.
No, it's been a great weekend. Right? I wish they were all this way.
You certainly have enough opportunities for it to be this good. I don't even know where we want to start. Maybe in Canada, I think, right? Let's go to Friday. I was up there last week and came back empty-handed, still waiting to see my first plate. But Caitlin, her greatness. I was up there broadcasting, and from a pedigree standpoint, she was the best bred horse, best bred 3-year-old, the only filly. Fillies do very well in the plate. She was the best bred horse. And Kevin Attar does a tremendous job. It was basically him and Cassie, and you have to shuffle the deck. Talk about Caitlin, her greatness. We can watch the plate.
Sure. Yeah, no, she's a really exciting filly. She's really come into her own with Kevin this year. And, he told me before the Woodbine Oaks, after he'd gotten her and worked her a few times, that she was his best filly going into the Oaks. And he had, I think, 4. So that made me feel good about having her there. And we gave her a run. We were really up against it. She had an entrapped epiglottis coming back from Todd this winter. We had to send her back to the farm untimely in March. Had to do a little throat surgery. Wasn't a big deal. It's not a big deal, but it's still a time-consuming deal. So she was really up against it, and we chose to send her to Kevin at Woodbine because she was a Canadian bred, and up to that point she had run some good races, but not taken that big jump. And so when he got her, he just said she's training great, and we ran her an allowance race 2 weeks before the Woodbine Oaks to just get her around 2 turns, and it was just a perfect setup. And then she ran so well in the Woodbine Oaks, got the best number, ran wide, and then she had 4 weeks to the King's Plate, and she really put it together here.
I have to ask, and I assume I know the answer, but maybe not. Do you continue with the Canadian Triple Crown, which is so unique because it's 3 different surfaces, but she's now won on all 3 different surfaces. So is that going to be the game plan on to Fort Erie?
I don't know. I haven't talked to Kevin about it. We were thinking about it this morning, and this race was $1 million, which is $700 US. The next one's $400, which is like $220. Do you really want to run her back in 12, 14, or 16 days now that the plate got moved to the following Friday? She's done a lot in a short period of time here, and she ran an 88 buyer here. She's progressed 78, 80, 88. I mean, you don't know where she could stop. And so I think, we might want to give her a chance to catch her breath and regroup. But I haven't talked to Kevin. We'll see. I'm not throwing that out.
But it is nice, though. You have options no matter what. That allowance race was on the turf. That obviously on the synthetic. And so that gives you a lot. And I have to ask about the name because I've read, is that a tribute to Caitlin Clark? There you go.
Yeah, I saw her shooting threes from the mid-court line in a video on X, and said, wow, this girl's Steph Curry. Yeah. So this was when this was not last year. This was the year before. And people, some knew who she was, but it wasn't like she's the notoriety she's got now. Yeah. So we looked up and tried to figure out a way to name her, and that's her Buick hashtag line for her NIL deal, Caitlin Her Greatness. So that's what we got.
Nicely done. There was a few things about this when I mentioned the breeding, and I want to fold in. I mentioned to everybody before you joined us. I don't know if you'd gotten here, but $375,000 OBS April purchase last year. Joe Applebaum, and off the hook. Joe hooked this one, and it was funny. I ran into Joe in the racing office Friday, and I said to him, I'm all over your filly today in the plate. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, Caitlin Her Greatness is in the plate, Joe. He said, they supplement. It had to be supplemented.
Yeah.
So he said, I didn't realize they had supplemented, and he had completely forgotten about it. So and of course, Joe bets a little. So Joe hit $20.90, and
he didn't forget to cash the check when you gave him
$375. And she's in Omaha Beach, and I want you to talk about the purchase, Elliot, because it's interesting. And you can fold in here, and we'll talk about Sienna and Anthony in a minute. But $375,000 Omaha Beach filly out of a Giants Causeway mare, and that's why I said all leading up to the original date of the plate. This is the best bred horse for 1.25 miles, and you saw the race. And what was fascinating about her was how everybody starts to make moves. She's sitting 4th, 5th, the majority of the backstretch. Everybody makes their move. They kind of swamp around her, and she's going one pace, 24-3, 24-3, just grinding out orders. And then all the horses made those premature moves. They fall away. Cassie Barber are
very good horse,
getting short by Boy Prince, absolute, but a horse who I don't think wanted 10 furlongs. So she just, you saw it there, just grinded out the last 8.
Well, when she was second in the Woodbine Oaks, she was on the lead. She got fresh with the jock, and then she got passed. But if you notice, she galloped out back, so it was more a product of 2 weeks. She came from the 10 hole. He had to use her a little bit to get position, and then she locked on him when they straightened up down the backside, and she made a sustained run all the way to about 10 jumps before the wire and got caught. and but then she didn't. Horse that gets caught and just is done.
Yeah.
No, she galloped out to the horse that passed her, and we were impressed with that.
I said to Ron Gierke the form, because you mentioned the 2 weeks. She had come into the Oaks on the short timing that you're talking about. She had run in the allowance and had won well on the grass, 7.5. And then just 2 weeks later is the Oaks.
That's right.
She actually was probably the horse that stood to benefit the most from the delay, the extra few days, the extra 6 days.
Yeah, it didn't hurt.
Didn't hurt at all. Anyway, I was crazy about this filly.
And the thing people don't know, probably unless they've looked her pedigree up, which I'm not sure you've looked into it deeply, but her Helsinki is her third dam, who's the dam of Street Cry and Shamardal. So she's got a tremendous family behind her.
Talk about OBS and buying 2-year-olds in training, and also augmenting the WinStar breeding operation, the ones you keep, the ones you sell. We'll talk about the new sires that are coming in a minute, but I'm always fascinated to hear from horsemen who have to watch these horses on the synthetic down at OBS, at Ocala, and then, make decisions about what kind of a horse they are, because, they're not all cut out for the synthetic.
No, they're not. But, good horses, I think that on the synthetic, it does bring a lot of horses together. Good horses and bad horses can all work pretty good on the synthetic. It's like working a horse on the grass. You say every time you work a horse on the grass, they go good. Well, they're used to running on the grass their whole life, and so they look good. Dirt separates them a little bit, and so that's why I think OBS likes to have them on the poly, because the more that it brings horses together, the more that they could bring. It doesn't separate out, and this group brings a lot of money, and this group doesn't bring any money. So it does create some doubt, but it also creates opportunity, because the buyers are spread a little bit more, and you can pick spots like in the 300 to 400 range instead of trying to buy the sail topper all the time.
Right.
It's just so obvious. This filly breezed extremely well. We put a lot of stock in going back to the barn and seeing how they come out of that breeze. Do they look like they're done? Is that the end of them, or do they have a fresh look? And then over the 3 or 4, 5, 6 days, sometimes it's 8 days between the time they breeze and the time they sell. At OBS April, it's a long time.
Yeah.
How do they respond? Are they in the feed tub? Do you see them picking up weight and gaining?
Tuck up.
Yeah, or do you see them just fall apart and they're just so? I mean, this filly was always very sturdy. Chad came up to me day after the King's Plate, and he was bidding on her. So good people were bidding on her, and we were lucky to get her.
Well, Caitlin, her greatness, the King's Plate win, and
did you come right out of the Oaks and know you were going to head to the King's Plate?
Yeah, oh, sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And it was interesting because Josie Carroll's filly,
she chose to go the filly route.
Right.
And she got beat.
And she got beat. Right. And some people said, well, how good is the Woodbine Oaks?
Right.
Don't worry. The Woodbine Oaks.
Well, if you look, that filly had a dream trip in the Woodbine Oaks.
Yes,
she was rail, and we were 3 wide.
Exactly.
And so I think we separated ourselves a great deal in the Oaks. But Josie Carroll's filly, she was 4th, I think, in the Bison City or whatever it was. But this filly's a progressive filly, and she's got her confidence. It's the first time she's run 2 turns, was up with Kevin, the 7.5 and the 1 1/8 and then 1 1/4. So obviously she relishes that with her family, and so we're really excited about her future.
She should be,
and she could be a graded filly in the States on the turf too.
When you're buying a horse like this, how much you mentioned we talk about the pedigree, and maybe this is a good opportunity. We'll segue over to the Forgo and talk about Sienna Farm and what's happening. I mean, there's going to be the I think the farm is
farms for sale.
Or is there an auction? Or is
no,
it just the stock? The stock is being.
Yeah, they're making some changes. We lost a great man in Anthony Maganero for the business. About this time last year, I remember Timberlake was breezing for the Hopeful. It was his last work before the Hopeful, and he had a heart attack that morning. He was getting ready to come out to see him breeze. And every time we win a big one, I think about how enthusiastic he has been for the business and good for the business, and we really miss him. He has a grandson named Nick DeMoore that a lot of people on the racetrack know. In fact, he works in the press office here, and now he's driving home to law school today to start tomorrow. I mean, he is just ate up with horses, and he really is going to carry on the mantle for Anthony Maganero and Sienna. So they're going to do it a little differently, but they're buying yearlings still with us.
Good.
So they're still around. They're just changing their approach a little bit.
Interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, the weekend continued from Woodbine to Saratoga yesterday, and we'll talk about the two horses with Rudy Brissett. And let's pull up the forego. And Mulligan, for whatever reason, and here he is, I mean, just dominating essentially. This was really never in doubt, frankly, right?
Yeah.
This is a horse that's now streaking.
Yeah, he's a real progressive horse. I mean, he's done nothing wrong this year. Really improved from 3 to 4. Rudy was very patient with him. He's a real horse, and to go as fast as he did and keep going, you could tell in the paddock he was just ready. I mean, his eye and the way he was marching around. Flavian in his post-race comments said how he is just, last time was good, this time he was really good, and so he is a horse that hopefully will get to the Breeders' Cup, and we're excited about his future.
There's a lot of interesting elements to this, Colt. He's a Violence, and of course, Violence at Hillendale, known for win early types. What's notable, though, this was a May foal, and it's almost logical that and it's not like he wasn't campaigned, as a 3-year-old. I mean, he got a good 3-year-old foundation, but even so, he didn't start as a 2-year-old. Debuted at 3 in February, and started to make the real progress after breaking his maiden. But it makes perfect sense that he's kind of getting with maturity, he's getting this good now. That's his 4th straight win.
He had something I've never seen in 40 years around horses. When we were breaking him as a baby, in like December or January, right when he was 2, he bled. He popped a vessel into his ankle joint behind, and it got that big. And yet he didn't have a chip, or he didn't have anything wrong with his ankle. It's just that somehow, and I don't know if he did it in the stall. We don't really know, but it was as big as a softball, and we could not figure out. I mean, even Dr. Bramlett was perplexed. He'd never seen it before, where somehow he had just bled into that space and created it. And he wasn't really lame, but it was so big and so angry that we had to give him 3 months to let it. And it bled into, for like a week or 2. It continued to get bigger every day. And
embolism?
It wasn't an infection. It was just, he somehow had we think he popped a blood vessel around the joint. Somehow it had penetrated the joint. And so and then it happened again once later on. And that's the only 2 times we had to stop on him and give him time. But it's not like, the thing about it is the bone was fine, which was really strange. Sometimes when you see a horse with a filled ankle, you always chip something.
Yeah.
And so we just had to give him time. But that's why he didn't run it 2. And, I think that the time has done him well. Like you said, he's a May foal. So he's grown and he's matured and he's gotten confidence. And, he's had some gate woes in the past too that got him off to not a great start. Yesterday broke like a shot. Everything's coming together for him. And, I think we probably keep him in training next year because he's so lightly raced, and look at a race like the Met Mile. I don't think there's any doubt he'll get a mile. Whether he'll get further than that, I don't know, but we'll see.
He was a $500,000 Keeneland yearling. When did he sell it, Keeneland?
He sold book 3, hip number 1117.
So one of the top knockdowns in book 3. And explain your approach and the farm's approach to the yearling purchases versus the 2-year-old purchases.
Well, we sell 90% of our yearlings.
How many yearlings?
75.
75.
80.
Broodmare band is 75.
Broodmare band's 100.
I was gonna say.
It's 120, but you only wind up with
exactly.
Yeah. So we'll keep 4 or 5 that either 1 or 2 might be extremely offensive, meaning we think they could be a stallion. But if they're the most expensive horses in our crop, we typically sell them because it's a big revenue arm for us to keep the farm going.
Sure.
And then there'll be a couple defensive where an X-ray doesn't look good, but it's a nice horse and we haven't seen any problems and we know they're going to be discounted at the sale. Super Saver was an example of that. He was just a medium-sized Maria's Mon, and just felt like he wasn't going to bring but 125,000. We thought, you know what, he's a pretty horse, great family. Let's keep him. And then we had him nominated the 2-year-old sale. We were going to put him in the 2-year-old sale, and then he had worked really good down there, and we decided we ought to keep him. But we were going to wait and hold him out just because he wasn't going to bring a lot of money. So there's a few of those that we keep as well.
Interesting. And you mentioned getting them started. Talked Richard Budge, right, for a long time.
Richard for a long time.
And who's running that?
Neil McLaughlin. Karen's brother.
That's right.
And Neil does a fabulous job.
Absolutely.
Tell people the nuts and bolts. What is the difference? What happens next when you come out of a yearling sale as opposed to what you come out of a 2-year-old sale? Where do you go with the horses in those 2 situations?
Well, both times they all come to WinStar. And one of the things that I think we've proven a myth of is you need to break horses in Ocala and train them in Ocala or South Carolina. We've broken that myth. Justify was raised, broken in Kentucky and stayed there in December, January, February. Life is Good, the same. All our good horses have been there. And we love it because we get to cross the street and see them on a daily basis. We're hands-on and very on top of it. We don't, you miss 8 or 10 days through the course of the 90 days weather-wise. Yeah. But you miss that in Ocala when it's raining. Because when it's pouring rain, they're not doing much but jogging around the racetrack either. Yeah. That's what we do. We jog in the shed, or we have a little poly track strip that we can jog on if the track's frozen. But we have a great crew that will work the track all night long, just like a racetrack, to get us on. And then we train later in the day. So we do make a couple alterations that make it work because of the weather. Yeah. But we'll train from 9 to 2. And by the time the sun comes up, it might be 18 at 6, but it's 30 at 9. Yeah. And so we get on the track and we love it. And we love to see the horses. We're breaking a bunch of horses for John Stewart this year. He wanted to have them all there. We just couldn't take them all. L&J, we have some very good clients. Merrow, Farrell. We break quite a few horses for other people as well. And it works great, and we've seen horses, our 2-year-olds run at the same time that horses coming out of Ocala. You mentioned the 2-year-old sale. Yeah. We like to get them back and give them 2 weeks to 4 weeks, depending upon how they come out of the breeze ups. Yeah. Don't like to give them a lot of time, Seth, but we like to give them a chance to catch their breath. They're fit. Yeah. They're very fit. Yeah. So all you need to do is kind of freshen them up. If you give them too much time, though, we found that they can go backwards on you. So we don't like to give them too much time. We like to keep them going. Yeah. We've learned that the hard way.
That point for Saratoga.
Point for Saratoga.
Well, and keeping them at the farm, by the farm. You've also got Kessmark close by for anything that comes up. That
we do. We have all the tools ourselves. Yeah. But Kessmark's a great facility.
The Kessmark, we got the hyperbaric, you got the pools, you got all the.
We got that too.
There you go. Well, you guys, the Kessmark is yours, no?
No, it's not. But Bill might have owned it at one point.
Okay,
But I think he might still own a piece of it. I'm not sure. But they do a great job. Kirsten Johnson does a great job, and we did model some of the things we do after what they're doing.
I always thought that it was an affiliate. Right. Let's talk about the Forego and watch this first grade one for Rudy Brissett, who does a terrific job and has really, seemed to be cultivating. It's funny, you wouldn't think of him necessarily as cultivating sprinters, but that's where he's having some real success. And we saw them. There we go. We got Mulligan, but we also got to talk about world record.
Yeah.
We watched this.
We watched it, but I don't mind watching it again.
I was going to say, you're probably.
I've watched it 18 times already.
Exactly.
But Flavian is in such a zone.
Oh man.
When you him on a horse, you have extreme confidence. He had 4 horses in the race in the Jerkins, and he picked the right one. I was kidding him the day before. I said, "You sure you got the right one?" He goes, "No." But that's what I just had to go with what I thought.
He was on domestic, I guess, even
He
before
was
he
on
ever ran
domestic
way
product.
back, and then missed some opportunities, and then to get back. And you mentioned Pratt, Elliot, when you were training. And that doesn't have to be limited to your training days. Who is a parallel from when you'd have a jock's room to choose from? Who would you think he?
Well, I mean, gosh, that's hard to say because we always, us old guys, think it was always better back then, right? But you think about having Angel Cordero, Gary Stevens, Pat Day, Jerry Bailey. I mean, tremendous amount of rider quality. Craig Perez. I mean, we can go right down. George Velasquez, Jacinto Vasquez. You can go right down the line. And I think what's changed a little is this colony is as strong as that. The California colony is not as strong.
Yeah.
Whereas in the old days you had the Shoemaker, Lafitte. You had a good quality in both. And it's no terrible knock on
No.
But you've had those guys migrate here.
Yeah.
Flavian Pratt came here.
Absolutely.
And so I think you would say Juan Hernandez is a very good rider out there, but I think this colony is so deep. And Jerry Bailey comes to mind. Liam O'Rourke, who's our stallions guy this morning, we were talking, and he said Flavian Pratt's kind of like Jerry Bailey right now. And
a cerebral rider.
Cerebral rider, exactly. I always had a great amount of success with Pat Day.
Yes, you did.
Loved Pat, loved the way that he would come into a paddock, and his connection with the horse was unique. Jerry would think about he knew where he was going to be. When he was the Nick Saban. Pat Day was the artist. He was going to come in and let the horse tell him, and they would figure it out as the race went along. And sometimes the New York guys jumped on Pat. Were more aggressive. Maybe got away from him a little. In Kentucky he could get away with that a little bit. Here they got away from him a few times. But what was interesting is for me was he was. I think the leading. He might not be today based on history, but more Breeders' Cup wins than anybody because I think everybody wanted to pull the trigger early, and Pat was so patient that they all moved too soon, and he'd come nail them, and it would just fit his style. When the biggest moments he came through, so that was my guy.
He owned Kentucky too for a while.
Yes,
so
exactly. Shane Sellers was great.
Well, I was going to say because I was going to ask you about Victory Gallop.
Yes, Jerry Bailey rode him. Gary Stevens. Pat got mad at me that he never got on him, but it just kind of worked that way. But Jerry ended up riding him. Gary Stevens got hurt in the Million. He run the Belmont on him, and then the horse, I don't remember what happened. I think he clipped heels in the Arlington Million and broke his collarbone. And so he couldn't ride him in the Classic. And the next year, because we were on the East Coast, Jerry rode him and had a great 4-year-old campaign.
You're right, though, about the days out in Southern California, because it used to be if a New York guy tried to transplant out there, it was almost impossible. Cordero tried to transplant out there. It was almost impossible in the day. And now these guys are coming east. And
Irad is such a good
rider, too.
I mean, Irad is so competitive. I think that's what and Jose, they're just competitive. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's basketball at the charity event or it's marbles. They want to win.
How come you aren't still over there playing?
You were right. You were a force out there.
Heisa would pull me up. I would not make the pre-race test.
I played for 3 years and I scored a basket and retired.
It's a lot of fun.
You know, the one race that we didn't call for that we should have. I bring up Victory Gallop, and of course, one of the absolute. We talk about Travers that people will remember when they were here, and when you ask them what was your favorite, and the Three Noses on the Wire with Coronado's Quest, and
that wasn't my favorite.
That's yours. No,
because they went 3/4 and 14. Yeah, 13 and 4. I think Coronado got away with, and so that was tough to run down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
and Rafi's Majesty was in the middle.
Rafi, exactly, with George Chavez.
Yeah.
I was here. It's one of the great.
Yeah,
one of the great Travers.
Victory Gallop was been blessed to be around him, and just he's been involved in some of the greatest horse races of all time.
Amazing. I mean
that Belmont,
era, right?
Yeah, the Belmont '98 with Real Quiet, and so yeah, in the Breeders' Cup Classic when awesome again. What a field that was. The Skip Away and the horse from Europe, the Godolphin horse that he went to the outside fence. Swain. Yeah, it was amazing.
I like Swain that day.
We were fourth beating the link. Victory Gallop.
Before we let you go, Steve had mentioned when we sat down, you had your son on the show the other day, who has followed in your footsteps, now training and having a nice career, and has made some starts up here at this meet. Talk a little bit about your son and moving into the training game.
Well, I'm very proud of him. Proud man he's become before the training, and he's a gifted horseman, and I think people are recognizing that, but it's character first, and he's changed his life, and that's the most important thing. But he can train too, and he really understands horses.
Seems to.
They run for him.
Yep.
They come to the paddock happy and full, and coats are good, and those kind of things you can see. And had a bit of a tough trip yesterday. I know he was disappointed with Rhetorical. Got off last.
Yeah, terrible start.
And second time out, he kind of showed some of that second time-itis where the stage is awful big, and it was a big day. So he lost his cookies a little bit in the paddock coming out to shoot. He didn't want to come out to shoot, and did some second time things. But Will's very gifted. He's got some great support. Gary Barber, he won a race for Gary Barber and Adam Wachtel. Adam's nobody smarter than him in the game, and so as long as he can keep getting support, I think he's got the tools to do very well.
Yeah, we had a wonderful conversation, and you got the Stable Recovery.
Yeah, I'm kind of an ad for Stable Recovery, but it's a fantastic program that I believe in, and Frank Taylor and Dan Pride.
Great job.
I believe in it because I know what it did for Will, and I don't need to say any more. I mean, you can see the transformation, and so we have some young men on the farm that are working as well.
Exactly.
The horse is an amazing animal that God put on this earth to connect with people. And it doesn't matter if it's over here where there's 50,000 people watching him run, or it's a one-on-one connection with a guy who's down on his luck and made some terrible choices in his life, and he's trying to regain it. Will told his guys all the time when they started, he said, there'll be a day when you look at this horse and that horse won't care what you've done, who you've hurt, if you've been in prison, what choices you've made. He'll love you for who you are, as long as you treat him right. And so that really resonates. And these men that go through this program, they just their faces light up. We have a guy at our farm that never been around horses in his life, was a barber, John, and he was a barber, and he made some tough choices, and then he ended up going to get sober. And now he's one of our grooms in our training barn. And he said, I can't believe I'm rubbing horses for Bob Baffert. And these guys, these horses come from these great trainers. And so, he's loving it. He is loving it.
Earlier in the meet, there was a screening of Fate of a Racehorse downtown for some of the participants and whatnot. I was lucky enough to get invited. Jay Hanley is behind it. And it shows when it gets wider release, worth checking out because it shows a lot of these organizations that are doing that therapy with horses, and you really get.
Veterans.
We talk a lot about it, but you get a real look at it, and they did a great job of kind of putting that out there.
I haven't seen that, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
And the veterans,
post-traumatic stress.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah. And I don't think, as I say, I've had people in here talking about it before, but to see it, it was eye-opening for me as well, that connection between the people and the horses.
Well, and it's amazing how far addiction touches everyone, whether it's a cousin or nephew or families are impacted all over the place. And so, taking the horse and making a platform out of that does real good for, it's not just the addict that gets reformed, it's the families around it.
Absolutely.
They get restored.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen with Stable Recovery. And Dan Pride at Godolphin is on the board. And the great thing is, people don't know this, but Mulliken was named after our former CFO, retired this year, named Jack Mulliken. And we take 20-year employees and we name a horse after them. We have a horse named McGinnis that got claimed from us, from our stallion manager. But Mulliken is named after Jack. Jack's the CFO now of Stable Recovery.
Oh, very nice.
I shoved him in there. I said, "You need something to do in retirement." So he's helping them. So he wasn't able to be here yesterday, but he's been to every race almost, and so it was great. He can't wait to have him at the Breeders' Cup. But he's kind of the CFO and handles the books for Stable Recovery. Cool. So he's giving back as well.
I love it.
You mentioned Breeders' Cup, and we didn't ask, do you have a game plan for Mulliken coming out of this?
Talk to Rudy. I mean, Rudy's felt like the sprint or the mile are in play, and gosh, I think he'll be favored in the sprint or choice. And I guess the mile, he'd be close to that, but there'd be the doubt of 2 turns.
Yeah.
If it was a 1-turn mile, I think, he's had so much success at 7 furlongs.
Yeah.
And he galloped out big. You don't know where it stops. And the sprint is such if you don't break quite right, if you get a bad post, there's a lot more variables that go into it. But so to answer your question, no. If I had to guess today, sprint seems more appetizing just because of the fact he'd be favoring. We might not have to make Flavian Pratt make a choice between domestic product and Mulliken.
He's probably a mile.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. A lot of that'll shake itself out.
Yeah.
Good
it's the day after, but
that's right.
Oh, I'm sure you've seen him this morning. How is he?
He's great.
He
looks fantastic.
Elliot, a quick hit on the farm too. We had Clark Brewster visit a few weeks ago, and real excitement at bringing Cogburn to the farm.
Real excited. He breezed this morning. Went a minute and change. Watched him work at 5:30. Steve. Dark, everything, perfect racetrack like Steve likes to do. Wins a grade 1 yesterday, and he's out there next day getting ready for the next one. And he went super, went really good. He's going to run the 7th at Kentucky Downs, and we're real excited about Cogburn coming to the farm.
And then as a stallion prospect,
yes, he'll be retired at the end of the year.
Right.
And we have some others. Timberlake's got to decide after that race yesterday. He was 4th, hadn't quite. Since he came back and he hadn't quite got over the hump there. He's a tremendous 2-year-old winning the Champagne, second in the Hopeful. We'll figure out what to do with him over the next month. And we've got a couple others that we're looking at as well. But Cogburn is a horse that we've real excited about being a not this time. Can't be any hotter than him. And
that win up here was insane.
And I don't know. I can't think of a horse that's run faster than 5.5 faster than a minute.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was unbelievable.
Then the not this time story is so crazy because then there's the counterbalance. There's Cogburn short on the grass, and then there's
up to the mark. Yeah.
The other one, the next.
Oh right.
The marathon, the marathon dirt horse.
But not this time. It's just a phenomenal stat.
Well, Dale said from word go. Dale said it's going to be Pre-potent sire. He was convinced.
He sure did.
Yeah.
And we've got a horse, Heartland, that we're thinking about staying as well, that broke his maiden first time out for Bob last summer. He's a half to Classic Empire, and he won one of those key maidens out at Del Mar, and I'm not sure he's going to make it back. And he's a Justify, and I mean, he is unbelievable looking. So we're trying to decide what
probably deserves a chance.
Yeah, kind of like Malibu Moon or Danzig or
so many
McLean's Music.
Yeah.
Spanish Steps.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you're going back.
Unbridled Song's brother.
Right.
He's okay. Well, he's Unbridled Song's brother. Let's give him a shot. Right.
I always say when we bring that up, there was Jimmy Carter and there was Billy Carter. So you can never absolutely know on the breeding side.
Michael Jordan had a few brothers.
That's right. That's everybody. That's another good one.
Yeah. Elliot, appreciate the visit, and again, congratulations over the weekend up in Canada and here as well, and continued success.
Thanks, Seth.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up for this week, as it is the penultimate version of Loose on the Lead. Stay tuned.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbach. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be it for Hart. Photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrow and Steve Bick, and wanted to come back because we haven't done play of the day yet. You've got your play of the day, and the play of the days are going very, very well. You had a nice one the other day, really nice one the other day. You've had a few, but you had a really nice one the other day. But I also wanted to start out. I asked you during the break. Beat Bick continues.
Yes, today it's a weird. It's actually it was a very difficult stake day to pick, and I ended up going with the funny side, the 2-year-olds, and usually I wouldn't put people in that position, but it's kind of a fun group, and I ended up, if you want to play with me, I went with Under Whose Radar, the maker for Paradise, and David Staudiker, but Smile and Say Cheese, the other maker, is okay, obviously. I think a case could be made for George Weaver at a price, soon to be king. I'm using him myself. Ron Lombardi, Mr. Amori, he's got In the Chase coming back off that maiden win. And Moplex, of course, who kind of misfired. Not misfired. He can't be. won the
Sanford.
Won the Sanford. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on Mulplex, so I'm going to jump into Beat Vic
All right,
today.
there you go. Go against me then.
Go with
Be that way.
Oh, and we should make it known. People can go with you, and they still move on if they even if they go with you. If they have the winner, and I qualified week 1 or week 2, so I'm looking forward to the NTRA qualifier with all the Beat Vic players coming up. What day?
Usually the third Saturday of September, typically. So 12 races. But you got, let's see, we got today, and then we'll have next Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Oh, all three. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So there's 4 shots left. NTRA.com/NHC/BeatBic. And you got to be a tour member. Spend that $50 if you haven't, because if you do qualify, and you're not a tour member, you can't come to Vegas. So that's the one, proviso.
And that would be super disappointing to
yes,
qualify.
That has happened here and there.
Yeah.
Over the years.
All right, let's get to the play of the day. The Sunday play of the day.
Well, we're getting down. Let's see, I've got today.
You get Labor Day too, I think.
Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, Labor Day. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, I couldn't find a 2 to 5 shot to pick, so we're going to use the 4 in the 7th race. Starts now, and I'm not sure we're going to get 12 to 1 on Starts Now, but this filly made a lot of sense. She was wide in the try last time, lost some ground, and still was able to finish within 2 lengths of the winner. Awesome Check. In fact, Awesome Check was a horse that I used.
I did too.
That was a Beat Vic horse in the previous race, July 21st, and paid a handsome number. So here we're basically thinking the same thing. And I'm sure you're sick of me saying New York breds long on the grass. There's just very little separating all of these horses. And so Lakeside Getaway, there's an example. Lakeside Getaway is 7-2 going into this. She beat Starts Now a length in that race in July. And Starts Now is 12 to 1. So that's the thinking. Matt Cantamassi does a tremendous job. This is a fun race, my kind of race for the DePaula play of the day, 12 to 1. Let's get lucky.
Owned in part by America's Pastimes, our friends, the folks behind that group, Amsterdam folks. So I always like to root for the America's Pastime guys, part of the ownership group. So good luck there. All right, going to wrap it up. You got anything else you want to toss out?
You mean in terms of plays today?
In terms of anything. Just before we were at.
Was there something else?
I like my dark horses.
I love that.
Yeah,
I loved your dark horse.
And you
play.
mentioned that you have it in your mix too. I like
that.
Because I'm a little concerned about the outside post position.
I wouldn't worry about
15 to 1.
Wouldn't worry about
Bobby
it.
M's girl in the finale.
She's going to be forward. This is Ed Young and the Sky Mesa filly at 15 to 1 with Katie Davis, and that price. I don't know if it'll be 15 to 1, but it'll be double digits. The horse to beat is Capital Spending for George Oibro, who has had a tough meet. Jorge he's 1 for 17, but has had 6 seconds. And there's been a number of trainers that have haven't won a lot or at all, but have had a ton of board hits. And I'm sure there's going to be some shipping money the last week, as they say, right?
Somebody always gets off the duck the last week.
I would also I made it 2-10-3, and I would absolutely take a long look at Gallant Greta, who is 6 to 1, gets the hot Tyler Gaffleone riding back, first time Lasix. This is a twirling candy out of an Empire Maker mare for Jordan Wyckoff, paid $90,000, and I think that's going to turn out to be a terrific purchase. Was a New York bred Saratoga sale purchase, bred by Gallagher Stud. And this filly, there's plenty of turf. Twirling Candy gets turf, but there's other turf in the family if you go back a little bit. And Gallant Greta stretches out dirt to turf, and sprint to route, and she's 6-1. So 2-10-3, and I boxed that up and hit it hard.
I wanted to get you because there was one race in here. Maybe it was it the finale? One of the races. Oh, yeah, the finale. I said it was a kind of a guessing game. But the other one I wanted to get some thoughts on, the Fleet Indian, race number 8. I thought that was a really nice field. I mean, these are horses that can bounce between New York Breds and Open Company. And the one that stands out, obviously, is My Main Squeeze, stepping out of a couple of grade ones into New York Showcase days. Oh, did she down at Charlestown? Was she down at Charlestown?
Yeah, she
ran okay.
Charlestown, right?
Okay. I don't know. I didn't look at the entire Charlestown, which makes sense. That was certainly a spot that fit her. As I say, they can bounce back and forth.
I'll confirm that, but and did not run well, I don't believe either.
Well, as I say, it makes sense.
She ended up, I think she was 4th or 5th at Charlestown. And take out the 3 as well. Bernie takes charge. The key to that race, you got to ask yourself between Dolomite and Landed. Dolomite came back and won that allowance for Chad. Is now stretching out from 6 to the mile and the 8th. Landed in the Bowery back in June. That was a big forward move, and you do wonder if there's some regression. It's been 10, 11 weeks, but those are the two horses to beat. I thought that Caldwell Loves Gold, not a huge price, 6-1. I mean, what you like about Caldwell Loves Gold is that she's gone a route of ground, and as opposed to the ones that are stretching out. Because you look at Landed, she did win at a mile and a 16th at Keeneland in April. But is she really a 2-turn type? So I thought that Caldwell Loves Gold was usable in here. My Shady Lady is a filly I like, and she ran very well at the beginning of the meet, opening weekend in that Stallion Series race. And she's going to be, she's 12-1 morning line. She'll probably be more like 7-8-1. But I mean, the 2 to beat are the 2 and the 4.
Yeah, I used Caldwell Loves Gold on top, but I originally, again, had My Main Squeeze in there. As I say, I didn't see the Charlestown results, but I think it's a fun race, fun field, nice field of, as I say, horses that can bounce back and forth, New York Red and Open Company.
Let's make sure we're okay. We're okay in the nightcap. No scratches out of the nightcap. Snowy Evening comes out of the Yaddo, having just run the other day, right? Midweek, Wednesday or Thursday. Oh, wow. Under Whose Radar is scratched. You got 3 scratches out of the funny side. So that's going to take that down to what? To a 7-horse field. Under Whose Radar is out. Bostonian.
Bostonian. There's a couple of T's in there.
Yeah, 3, 6, 7 out of the funny side, which is really too bad.
Yeah, those were a couple of players.
There's a few. Skylar's Starship is coming out of the 5th, the Albany. So that's a 5-horse field there where it's Pandagate and Doc Sullivan. Yeah, all right. And Bellicose scratches out of the opener, Seeking the Ante.
I wonder if the game plan will be the hopeful. Because John Stewart bought in.
Well, that's a filly. You mean the
Bellicose? Yeah.
Bellicose, not the hopeful. You mean?
The spin away. Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you that accelerating should be very tough in there for Asmussen.
Yeah,
and that's isn't that a the Matoli. Yeah.
You got Karma's Candy Jar there, also a little bit interesting, but
this is just okay. That was Rapoli that we were going to talk to. We were hoping Mike would stop over.
He's tough to get him on, but
he's mercurial, as they say.
All right, we'll wrap it up. As I say, the penultimate. You're here next. You're here for the final.
Yeah.
All right. So looking forward to it. You look sharp today. I'm like, oh,
thank you. This weekend too. We're supposed to get either Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. Landauer, the maiden 30 that should go. They've been holding it, They've been holding it over each day. They've got 8, and they said it's absolutely going to go.
And let's get you in the winner's circle because it was closing
nice.
weekend last year where, man, that was so frustrating. You just
yeah, that was great. The closing day, and then we had to get in the car and drive 7 hours off of getting beat. This
all right, we'll wrap it up for this edition of Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrow, Steve Bick. As far as the morning programming, we're back in Wednesday, 9 a.m. Handicapper Sport, 10 a.m. Racing Across America. Great afternoon ahead. So if you're coming to the track, come over and enjoy it. Don't forget the show pool still open until about noontime. We'll close it then. I'll have the pick 3 plays, not the show pool, the pick 3 bankroll. I will have the pick 3 plays up shortly thereafter. So have some fun with that as well. Otherwise, we'll see you Wednesday.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.